So, big day today. We have another engine build series for the Firebird this time actually. And let me show you guys the engine. It's pretty cool, I think. Some of you guys may not like it. I think it'll be awesome though, so let me show you guys the engine. So, the engine we are dropping in the Firebird is... If you guys don't know what kind of an engine this is a GM Vortec 4200 or 4.2 liter. It's a 4.2 liter inline six. I know, inline six going into a muscle car, whatever. These are not very commonly modified engines, but they can actually push some decent power on stock internals. And I got this one for a great price, which is free. And bolts to a 4L60E, which with very little modification can be dropped into a third gen, which is why I went with this engine. And because inline six, Zach's got the RB20. We've got some big plans for this engine coming in the future, but first thing we gotta do is I've got the 5-cylinder version of this engine. I've got a rear sump oil pan ordered for it. Should be here today. So we're gonna have to cut and extend it because they're the same architecture. But in order to do that, I gotta flip the engine over, which is gonna be a pain in the butt because Zach's got the engine stand right now. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to get this thing flipped over so I can get the oil pan off. I already got the oil out of it, but yeah. The whole engine, it's all aluminum minus the valve cover. The later ones have a aluminum valve cover, but again, free. I'm not gonna complain. It's what is it? 6x24 valve. So it's got the VVT on the exhaust side as well, which is pretty cool. We might mess with that in the future. This is all going to be ran off of a standalone ECU. So anyway, we'll get more into depth into that in the future. For now though, today I'm just going to get the oil pan off and whatnot and just kind of show you guys this engine because it's a really cool motor. They're just not very commonly modified for good reason. No, not for good reason. Actually, kind of a shame they aren't. All right, so here is the 5-cylinder oil pan, all nice and shiny. Come over here. Engine's upside down. Don't ask how I did it, but it's sitting on the engine mounts and part of the bellows housing back there. It's fine. It's sketchy, I know. It's fine. It'll work. I can get the oil pan off. So this is the same thing that we did on the RB. I'm just gonna go through, take the oil pan off real quick, show you guys how the inside of the engine's looking because I don't even know yet. And I'll kind of give you guys a rough idea of how we're going to be extending the oil pan. So let me get this oil pan off real quick and I'll go from there. So oil pan's off. This is what the engine looks like on the inside. It's not quite as great as the RB20 is. It still doesn't look too terribly bad. So on the 6-cylinder, the oil dipstick comes in through the block. But on the 5-cylinder oil pan, it actually has a hole for the dipstick. So I'm going to be using a 5-cylinder dipstick. I do need to figure out how I'm going to do the oil pickup. I'll probably just do some research online, see if anyone's actually made one for it. Or I might have to get a 5-cylinder pickup and modify it. But I mean, the engine, I've tested, the engine does turn over and it feels like it's got good compression. So, and again, apparently this motor ran when the dude pulled it, or when the dealership, this because the guy I got it from a dealership who they said it ran, it came out of a running vehicle. So, I mean, again, the engine was free, so whatever, right? Honestly, it doesn't look too bad, but anyway, let me get this off and I'll start showing you guys the 5-cylinder pan stuff. So obviously this isn't quite perfect, but the idea is bolt holes back. So these front ones line up here and the back ones line up back there, but in the middle where there's an added cylinder, they're a little bit different. So the idea is you cut it back along here, move this to the front, and you add some section of the old oil pan to it to make it all bolt up properly. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making a template off the bolt holes on this and then matching this up to it and extending it. So I'm gonna get the whole bottom end covered with the trash bag so dust doesn't get in there. But yeah, I guess I'll come back once I kind of figure out what we're gonna be doing entirely. But yeah. Hi, Zach.
Hi.
We're at a shop working on the oil pan. We just got a mark where we're gonna be cutting it. Let me show you guys what we've done. Ignore the loud grinding. We've got a template made here where we can have all of our holes lined up. We're gonna be cutting it right along here and then extending it out this way. Our first step is just get it cut and so we can figure out where our bolt holes are gonna be. But basically it lines up to this bolt hole, but we'll be cutting it a little bit before it because it lines up to that bolt hole there. So we're gonna be cutting it like right here-ish. So we're gonna get this cut in half and then I'll come back after that to show you guys. So we've got our mark here of where we're gonna be cutting. So we're gonna cut that real quick. So as you can see in front of me, we got the oil pan cut in half, and I've got 2 sections on. But as you can see on this section, this bolt lines up, this one lines up, that one obviously lines up, all these ones line up, all these ones line up. The only one on this back section that doesn't line up is this one right here, because I think it's a little bit forward up here. That's easy enough though to drill and put a new bolt in there, I believe. Then on this back section, all the 2 back here line up, that one lines up. I believe these 2 don't line up, but again, easy enough to get new bolt holes there. On this section, those 2 line up, and that one doesn't line up, but I think I could figure something out. And then, of course, we're gonna be cutting out 2 sections from the old oil pan for right here and right here. So I'm just gonna measure this gap here so we know exactly how much we gotta take. We'll cut a little bit extra off, and then the plan is TIG them here and here, and then test fit the big set. Once this is all tacked get together, we can check the alignment of these 2 and that stud right there. Then once we know that everything, that the pan will bolt to the engine, we'll go through and actually make the section to kind of bridge this gap here, which this should be an easy enough section. It's just basically going up, along, and then down. Yeah, next step is to measure these gaps here so I can get sections cut out of the old oil pan to start doing this. All right, so on the old 6-cylinder oil pan, I've gotten the sections marked out that I need to cut off from this oil pan. I'm gonna be cutting it so I've got a bit longer of a section than I'm gonna need, so I can then trim it down, you know, give myself a little bit of extra to work with, because that's how you do stuff with tolerance, so I don't cut too short and then not have enough material, right? So I can just slowly grind it down until it's a perfect fit. So I've cut out a section of the inline 6 oil pan here. I cut more off than I needed to, so that way when I come here you can see it's a bit bigger than it needs to be, so that way I can start trimming off the little bit that I'm gonna need, so then it'll fit on there perfectly. So not too difficult, I don't think, but yeah, it'll be fun. So it took a fat second, but I did get basically this middle section to the point where everything lines up and it drops in. Now the plan is, once this is all tacked together and we know that this will all fit, we're gonna cut it here and here to take this top section off and then bridge it along here. But for just getting it all welded together, we're gonna leave this little cross section on just so I can keep the width consistent. But now the next step is get the rear section and see how much I need to take off of this midsection here to get the rear section to fit on. So as you can see, I've gotten this midsection on this side grinded down to where it fits, and now all the bolts that normally would line up, line up. The next step regarding the pan itself is I got to take this to the welding shop so I can tack them together. Once they're tacked together, I'll bring it back home, test fit it to make sure everything still lines up. Then once I know it all lines up, I'll go through, finish the welds up along here, and then we'll cut out this section here and then build a little bridge for that. And then we'll just go through, leak test it, make sure everything looks clean and that'll all flow smoothly. And then bam, the oil pan will be done. All right, just real quick before I tack this together, I just wanted to show you guys how it's looking. You can see how perfectly the architecture of this side lines up. This side's a little bit rougher of a fit together. I think it's just because this is a 4-wheel drive oil pan that I pulled off the 6-cylinder, but still lines up pretty well, especially right there, lines up good. But yep, I'm gonna get this tacked together and we'll do another test fit. All right, I got it tacked. As you can see now, it was a little bit uneven, so these top ones, at least this top one snapped when I went to tighten it down because it was a little bit bent up back here. The alignment though is correct, so now what I'm gonna do, get these welded up and then make this bridge, and then the oil pan will be finished. Right at round 2, we got these welded up. This side's ugly, this side's a little bit prettier. Unlike last time, this time the oil pan's actually like flat. So we know that this is good. All the bolts should line up as before. I'll probably just double check it to be sure. But basically the next step is cut it here and here, and then get a piece of metal, aluminum to go along there, and weld it in place, and then also weld the insides to seal oil in and then leak test it. you saw from that clip, we got that cut out. And we got these sides leveled. So I've got some aluminum here, I'm gonna cut it. And first step is I'm just gonna get little wedges or little parts for here on either side. So it takes it up to this top part, and then we're gonna start bridging across. So a little bit more progress has been made since the last clip. The inside of these plates has been welded, but overall it is, structurally very sound. For how I expected this to go, it's going a lot smoother than I actually thought it would. All right, so I've gotten the outside welded. I know it's hideous because the reason I didn't care that much about the look of it, because either way I knew I was gonna go through, I'm gonna grind all this down flush so it kind of looks like one piece almost, because I'm gonna end up going through and painting this the same color. I'm gonna paint the valve cover eventually. So next step, I'm just gonna go through, grind all this down flush, and then paint it. I'll probably just do that in my own time though. I don't know, maybe on Instagram or TikTok, I'll show the picture of it painted. I don't know, I gotta decide on the color. But then all stuff to do is the pickup. I got the new pickup. I'm just gonna cut and extend it. Shouldn't be too hard. I'll show you guys kind of what we're doing to extend it once we do it. Anyway, that's it for the oil pan. Now last step is just the pickup, and I'll show you guys how we're doing that here in a second. I know I said I was gonna come back once we're doing the pickup, but I just wanted to show you guys this real quick. I've got this ground down. I still need to go over with a file and some sandpaper, really smooth it out, but for the most part, it's all smoothed out. And then once this is all painted, you're not going to even be able to tell that this is two oil pans spliced together. I mean, you probably will be able to, but it'll look pretty dang good, I think. So just showing you guys, we have the new pickup cut. I've got a section of pipe here. All we gotta do now is just take it along the outside, make sure it seals, and the pickup will be done. Okay, this first section's welded and nice and sealed. Now we're gonna weld the very end of it on. I should say Zach's doing it because he's better at steel TIG than I am, so minty fresh, boys. All right, as you can see, the new section's in. It does not leak. It is very long, but it makes sense because it's gotta go from one end of the block to the other. But next step is test fit it in, make sure everything lines up, nothing interferes, and then we gotta tap these screw holes as well, the support ones, but I'll come back once I got this bolted down in the block. All right, so pickup is just lightly bolted on. I'm gonna move a hole here to have this bracket bolted there. Then I'm going to bend this bracket to over here and then put a hole there. Like tap it just like these ones are tapped, which that won't really be too bad. It's just the hard part is not getting metal shavings down into here. So maybe I'll do that once I have the block flip back up around. I don't know yet. Kind of be a little bit tricky. But the oil pan does go on and clear the whole thing. So pickup's good to go, doesn't leak. I just got to get those brackets figured out now. So anyway, that's pretty cool. One last thing for this video is I just want to, once I get this oil pan done, I'll show you guys once it's all painted and looking good. And yeah, then we'll get it tightened on. All right, it's been months to be honest, but I finally got the oil pan finished up and painted and whatnot. But I mean, I got to pull it back off to do the pickup and whatnot. So it's not technically, the whole thing isn't technically done yet, but for the video, it's good enough. I painted it kind of a semi-gloss black, so it'll match the valve cover. And because it's a, not going to see the oil pan anyway. So point is, this is good to go. Oil pan is mint. I leak tested it and it's all good to go. So, I mean, it's not the best ever. It's got some rough spots, but like, you're not going to see it anyway. The important thing is that it doesn't leak and that it clears the subframe, which it should, or at least it'll be close enough. I might have to notch the subframe a little bit, but anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Remember to like and subscribe, of course. Follow our TikTok and Instagram in the description below, and I'll see you guys next week, and maybe even Zach as well, who knows.